So growing up the youngest of 5 children, my mother always taught us that there's no such thing as a dumb question. Now, some of you may disagree with that, but fundamentally, that's how I was raised, and that's what I believe. My mother always said, if you don't know it, say it, learn it, and move on. The funny thing is that I found in school, as well as in business, that there seemed to be this underlying tension of not to do that. So in school, you raise your hand when you know the answer. In business, you certainly don't expose your vulnerabilities or expose the instances when you don't know the answer. So I was always in this conflict, when I was in business and from what my mother said. So in June of 2007, I took over as the executive director of Explorations in Math. And the situation at that time was we were a brand new startup nonprofit. We'd been around for a few years. We had just gained our own 501c3 in February of that year. We were not really financially stable. We had been highly dependent on a single donor. We were just launching our relationship with social venture partners. And I was a brand new ED. First time ED in the nonprofit sector. So I was extremely nervous, wasn't quite sure how to proceed. Do I conduct myself as I did in the corporate world, or do I need to put on this new face in the nonprofit sector? One of the first things I knew we had to do was to diversify our funding. And we decided to do that. We would put together a mailer to make people aware of the work that we were doing in the communities that we serve. We put together the mailer and quickly realized none of us knew how to do a mail merge. Here I had come from the corporate world leading a team in one of the largest mergers in history, and I didn't know how to do a mail merge. I could do a merger, but not a merge. So I was in that quandary of, do I expose this silly, mundane weakness that I have that was really critical? We had to get this out. Or do I kind of proceed moving forward, hoping that the answer would fall into my lap? I decided to listen to my mother. I decided to take a breath and lift up the phone, and I called at that time our lead partner, who was Madeline Durkin. It was one of the first interactions that we had had. And I said, Madeline, I'm really, really embarrassed to say this. It's critical to our business. We don't know how to do this. Can you help us? Madeline was extremely gracious. She said, you know what, I don't know how to do it either, but I'll find someone who can help us. We eventually got it done. We got the mailer out. And the point of this is not necessarily about the mailer. It's about the fact that because this was something significant and somewhat mundane, we still took the opportunity to expose ourselves to ask for help. And what started in that moment was a relationship built on trust. Well, the mailer went out, and as you would expect, it takes time for money to come rolling in. It didn't right away. And a few months later, 4 months later, we were faced as an organization with 2 months of funding left before we would have to shut our doors. This was an extremely difficult time for me. Again, I was faced with, in this moment, what do I do? Do I expose this weakness that we have as an organization? Again, I was relatively new to the nonprofit sector. If I expose this weakness, would funders not fund us anymore? Would our partners dismiss us? I had many conversations with the board. The board was brand new, weren't really quite sure what to do either. And they said, you know what, it's up to you. So I remember the moment sitting at my desk, feeling this weight of this organization on my shoulders, people's livelihoods in my hands. And I thought, I'm going to expose this weakness. I picked up the phone and I called Aaron Jacobs. And I was really nervous about doing this. And Aaron responded graciously and said, you know what, we're there. We're going to help you. We're going to figure out a contingency plan. We'll help you through this. 3.5 years later, we are financially stable. We have 4 months in the bank of funding for us. We are poised for growth, and we're in great shape. And I am firmly convinced that the reason why we are is because of that trust that was built, the openness to the potential of partnerships and connections that were made in those relationships from the very early days. It just built and got better from there. And so my big learning is, don't let those simple, somewhat seemingly mundane opportunities pass you by to open yourself to the potential and power of meaningful, trusting connections and partnerships. Thank you.